Jack Webb, the mastermind behind Dragnet, seemed to have it all: a groundbreaking career, a vision that redefined police dramas, and an iconic catchphrase etched into pop culture. But beneath the polished exterior lay a life of hidden struggles and untold stories. From a tough childhood in Los Angeles to a relentless pursuit of realism that revolutionized television, Webb's journey was filled with both triumphs and personal sacrifices. Jack Webb was more than just an actor. He was a visionary who left an enduring impact on both television and radio. Born John Randolph Webb on April 2, 1920, in Santa Monica, California, Jack entered the world under difficult circumstances. His father left not long after his birth, so he was raised by his mother and grandmother in Bunker Hill, a once grand neighborhood of Los Angeles that had fallen into disrepair by the time he was growing up. In that environment, where economic struggles were widespread and streets were lined with aging Victorian buildings, Jack learned resilience from an early age. Despite the hardships, Jack found his way to Belmont High School. There, he discovered his fascination with radio, which offered both a technical challenge and a creative outlet. He joined the radio club and became actively involved in school productions, practicing the craft of theater of the mind that would later shape his career. Around the same time, his talent for drawing stood out. He contributed cartoons to the school's yearbook, quickly gaining admiration for his artistic flair. These early illustrations hinted at a broader creative skill set, one that would serve him well in the diverse world of entertainment. Upon graduation, Jack decided to focus on art more seriously. He enrolled at St. John's University in Minnesota, where he expanded his drawing abilities and studied various forms of creative expression. After his time at St. John's, Jack briefly worked at his uncle's clothing store in San Francisco, an experience that provided him with some insight into the practical realities of business. Not long after, he decided to join the United States Army Air Corps, which was ramping up operations as World War II intensified. For many young Americans, the Air Corps offered a chance to serve their country while acquiring valuable skills, and Jack was no exception. Although he initially aspired to become a pilot, he discovered that he didn't meet all the requirements. Instead, he took on a role as a clerk and typist, where he developed a keen eye for detail and strong organizational skills, qualities that would later prove invaluable in creating meticulously crafted scripts and radio segments. Yet Jack's time in the service wasn't purely a desk job. He got involved with the United Service Organization, USO, a group dedicated to entertaining troops both at home and abroad. Through these shows, he further developed his vocal delivery and stage presence, attributes that would become crucial to his career on air. The USO performances introduced him to the art of engaging large, diverse audiences, teaching him how to tailor his voice, timing, and pacing to grab people's attention. When he was eventually discharged, Jack walked away with the discipline of the military and the creative spark he found in the USO. Not long after leaving the Air Corps, Jack jumped into radio work in San Francisco around 1945, embarking on what would become a defining chapter of his life. At first, he made his mark with Pat Novak for Hire, a detective series set on San Francisco's waterfront. Known for its crisp dialogue and moody atmosphere, the show quickly drew a devoted following and highlighted Jack's versatility as a performer. While Pat Novak for Hire was crafted as a drama, listeners often caught glimpses of Jack's comedic timing, an unexpected twist that allowed him to stand out in a crowded radio market. His growing reputation led to a pivotal role at KJO in San Francisco. There, he became a true jack of all trades, serving not only as a disc jockey but also stepping into roles as a writer, producer, director, political commentator, performer, and even conductor. This behind-the-scenes work was every bit as demanding as being in front of the microphone, requiring him to understand scheduling, script editing, and the subtleties of balancing a station's content. His first show for KJO, The Little Man Inside, launched in 1945. It offered a satirical take on what might be swirling around in the mind of an ordinary American at a time when war fatigue, economic shifts, and cultural changes were shaping day-to-day life. The show's sense of humor resonated with audiences who were craving both escape and reflection. He followed it in 1946 with 1 Out of 7, then The Jack Webb Show, Pat Novak for Hire, and Are These Our Children? Each project showcased different facets of his creative identity, from comedic flair to straight-laced drama, from social commentary to suspenseful storytelling. While many fans primarily remember Pat Novak for its gritty detective plots, others spotted the offbeat humor that Jack slipped into his performance. This balance between intense drama and light-hearted asides helped set him apart from other radio actors of the era. Building on Jack Webb's radio achievements in San Francisco, the year 1948 marked a major turning point when he headed south to Los Angeles. He arrived at a time when Hollywood was booming with post-World War II film productions, and his first credited movie role came in the crime drama He Walked by Night, a gritty film often noted for its semi-documentary style. That performance, modest as it was, helped open doors to several other notable projects. In 1950 alone, Jack appeared in Appointment with Danger Opposite Alan Ladd, the critically acclaimed The Men, which featured a young Marlon Brando, Billy Wilder's iconic Sunset Boulevard, and the noir thriller Dark City with Charlton Heston. These roles highlighted his range in front of the camera, showing an audience accustomed to his radio voice that he could also carry a scene on the big screen. By 1951, he added Halls of Montezuma, a war film about U.S. Marines, and You're in the Navy Now, co-starring Gary Cooper, to his filmography, further expanding his presence in Hollywood. However, success in film did not guarantee steady work year-round. By the summer of 1949, both his TV and radio series were on hiatus, leaving Jack to consider his next move. It was then that he remembered a conversation he'd had with technical advisors, real-life Los Angeles police officers, while filming one of his movies. Intrigued by the authentic stories they had shared, he reached out to them and asked if he could ride along during their shifts. Week after week, he observed how the officers interrogated suspects, handled emergencies, and navigated the complexities of day-to-day policing. These first-hand experiences convinced him there was real drama to be found in ordinary police work, and thus the concept for Dragnet was born. Debuting on radio in 1949, Dragnet quickly caught listeners' attention with its true-to-life portrayal of law enforcement procedures, drawn from actual Los Angeles Police Department files. Jack Webb's insistence on authenticity gave the show a distinct tone that set it apart from more sensationalized crime dramas of the time. Before long, Dragnet made the leap to television in 1952 and continued until 1959. In its early run, Jack was paired with Barton Yarborough. After Yarborough's untimely death, Ben Alexander stepped in to play Officer Frank Smith. Audiences embraced the show's blend of methodical police work and understated storytelling. And by its third season, Dragnet was popular enough to warrant a full-color movie version, proof of how deeply it had resonated with viewers. As often happens when a series becomes a hit, external opportunities started vying for Jack Webb's time. His passion for film led him to sign on to multiple projects, and he gradually diverted more energy away from Dragnet in favor of pursuing a broader career in directing and acting on the big screen. Unfortunately, This shift took its toll on Dragnet. The final 78 episodes were shot back-to-back over the course of about 7 or 8 months, putting intense pressure on both cast and crew. Although Jack initially intended to cap the series at 100 episodes, the show's immense popularity and his own willingness to keep exploring other roles compelled him to continue. Juggling these commitments proved challenging. While his film endeavors weren't outright failures, none achieved the massive success or cultural impact of Dragnet, and audiences struggled to accept him outside of Sergeant Joe Friday's no-nonsense persona. A major business decision also came back to haunt him. At the end of 1953, Jack sold the ownership of Dragnet to Music Corporation of America, which later became part of NBC Universal. When the show's ratings began to slide in its final 2 years, that move meant he no longer had full control or the financial security that comes from maintaining an ownership stake. After Dragnet wrapped up, Jack Webb found it difficult to replicate its massive popularity. His first major move was to take over the established detective series 77 Sunset Strip, originally created by Roy Huggins and produced by Warner Brothers. The show had enjoyed a solid run since its 1958 debut, featuring Ephraim Zimbalist Jr., Roger Smith, and Ed Burns. However, when Jack stepped in to revamp its 6th season, his sweeping changes, aimed at bringing a sharper, more serious tone, clashed with viewers who preferred the lighter, somewhat stylish vibe that had made the show a hit. Ratings dropped swiftly, and 77 Sunset Strip was canceled, leaving critics to assert that Jack had lost his connection with the younger demographic driving television at the time. Despite that setback, Jack jumped into another project in 1963, the Western Temple Houston, co-starring Jeffrey Hunter. Loosely inspired by the life of Temple Lee Houston, youngest son of the famous Sam Houston, the hour-long series was produced at a breakneck pace. Each episode was filmed in just 2 or 3 days to meet Jack's demanding schedule. The rapid production may have contributed to its short run. Temple Houston lasted only 26 weeks before bowing out. Westerns were popular in the early 1960s, with shows like Bonanza and Gunsmoke leading the pack, and Temple Houston struggled to stand out among the established hits. Undeterred, Jack returned to his comfort zone in 1967 by reviving Dragnet. He once again donned the badge as Sergeant Joe Friday, this time partnering with Harry Morgan, best known for his later role on MASH, as Officer Bill Gannon. Production had begun with a 100-minute pilot in 1966, though it wouldn't see air until 3 years later. The reboot, commonly referred to by its year, such as Dragnet 1967 or Dragnet 1968, continued until 1970. While it found a loyal audience, it never fully broke through to the new wave of younger viewers who were gravitating toward more socially conscious or fast-paced programming. Still, for fans of the original, it provided a familiar, methodical approach to law enforcement stories. Around this time, Jack's production company, Mark 7 Limited, found renewed momentum with Adam 12, 1968 to 1975. Created by Jack Webb and R.A. Senator, the series starred Kent McCord and Martin Milner as LAPD officers tackling everyday crimes. The show not only won praise for its realistic tone, but also soared into the Nielsen Top 10 in 1971, proving that viewers were still hungry for straightforward police dramas. Hoping to broaden his scope, Jack then introduced O'Hara, U.S. Treasury, starring David Jansen, but it ran for just 1 season. In 1972, Jack co-created Emergency, another Mark 7 Limited production, which followed 2 Los Angeles County Fire Department paramedics played by Kevin Teague and Randolph Mantooth. This pioneering series spotlighted the then-new concept of paramedic rescue services and captivated audiences for 5 seasons. Even after its regular run ended, 6 additional 2-hour TV movies were produced, maintaining enough interest to keep the franchise alive. Longtime Dragnet collaborator Harry Morgan and cast members Bobby Troup and Julie London also contributed to the show's success, either through guest appearances or ongoing roles. Jack's final television project arrived in 1978 with Project UFO, inspired by the U.S. Air Force's real-life Project Blue Book investigations into potential UFO sightings. The anthology format featured dramatized versions of reported encounters. Though it aired during a period when public fascination with extraterrestrials was on the rise, Project UFO lasted just 26 episodes, wrapping in 1979. In his personal life, Jack Webb was married 4 times, each marriage reflecting a different stage of his demanding yet rewarding career. His first marriage, from 1947 to 1954, was to singer and actress Julie London, arguably the most famous of his partners. Together they had 2 daughters, Stacy and Lisa, and shared a creative spark that influenced both of their professional paths. Following their divorce in 1954, Julie went on to enjoy a thriving career as a jazz vocalist, recording memorable songs like Cry Me a River. She later starred in Emergency, 1972 to 1979, a series produced by Jack's own Mark 7 Limited. Interestingly, after parting ways with Jack, Julie married Bobby Troup, another key figure on Emergency. Although their relationship ended, the bond they formed in show business left a lasting imprint on each of their careers. Jack's second marriage to Dorothy Towne lasted from 1955 to 1957. By that point, Jack's Dragnet success had ballooned, and he was often labeled a workaholic, an attribute that may have put strain on his personal life. In 1958, he wed Jackie Lawfery, a former Miss USA, and remained married to her until 1964. This period overlapped with his intense schedule of reviving Dragnet and taking on various film projects, which commonly involved late-night script overhauls and relentless production demands. His fourth and final marriage was to Opal Wright, who stayed by his side until his death on December 23, 1982. During these later years, Jack was juggling multiple shows, from the Dragnet reboot to Adam 12. People close to him remembered his boundless energy. He was known to rewrite entire scripts overnight. Yet this level of commitment sometimes came at a price. Jack had a 3-pack-a-day smoking habit, a vice that was unfortunately all too common in mid-20th century Hollywood. Colleagues often saw him with a cigarette in hand, whether he was rehearsing lines, directing scenes, or editing after hours. The stress of running major productions like Dragnet, Adam 12, and Emergency only fueled his chain smoking. Sadly, it culminated in a fatal heart attack when he was just 62. Health experts now view his story as a cautionary tale regarding the dangers of heavy smoking. A noteworthy detail about Jack's final chapter is his burial. Though he passed away in 1982, he was not laid to rest in the Sheltering Hills section of Forest Lawn Hollywood Hills Cemetery until 1999. The reasons behind this delay have never been fully explained, though observers speculate it was due to a mix of estate-related and logistical factors. Regardless, he ultimately found a resting place in the city he had helped immortalize with his pioneering television series that showcased the daily lives of Los Angeles' police officers, firefighters, and paramedics. From his tumultuous marriages and demanding production schedules to a smoking habit that cut his life short, Jack Webb's personal journey was as complex as the characters he brought to the screen. Though best remembered for Dragnet and its trademark line, "Just the facts, ma'am," His layered personal story reveals the depth of a man whose commitment to realism and efficiency left a permanent mark on the television landscape. Rest in peace, Jack Webb. Your legacy lives on.